The last video I was talking about, the last video you didn't see that I thought was recording but wasn't. Um, I was talking about how um, when my family and I lived in Corona, California, and we had to move because it was a lot of wear and tear, a lot of back and forth. My parents were commuting, they both worked in Orange County, and me and my brother, we went to school in Orange County as well. And then, of course, after school, we'd go to our grandmother's house, who lived in Orange County, and until one of our parents got off from work, which was usually my dad, and he'd pick us up and he would take us home. So we would commute back to Corona, and we do the same thing every day, 5 days a week. So my parents decided to sell the house they were in after 5 years and move to Orange County. So we moved to Anaheim, and we stayed there until I was an adult. But when we started the process for looking for a house in Orange County, at the time I think I was 11. So I was in junior high school, sixth grade. At my school, sixth grade was junior high school. So we started working with a real estate agent who drove up in his beautiful white BMW. And I remember my parents being so impressed with him because he was really young. And yeah, I didn't really have, at that point, I was 11, so I had no experience with a real estate agent. So I didn't know how old they were supposed to be, but apparently he was super young. I remember him being rather serious, and I didn't really interact with him all that much. He mostly interacted with my parents, obviously. So, you know, everything was pretty much just based upon what I saw and what my parents said when he wasn't around. So, yeah, they just were so impressed by how successful he was and how young he was and whatever. So we bought a house in Anaheim. And then fast forward some years later, a lot of years later, actually, and I become a real estate agent. And just a few months after I got my license, I called. First, I checked to see if Doug was still a real estate agent, and turns out the internet says that he was. So I called, and I left him. He didn't pick up. I left a message on his voicemail, and I was just saying, "Oh, you probably don't remember me because you sold my parents their house in Anaheim from Corona, and I was a kid, but you did, and I remembered you, and I just called you up just to say, hey, I'm an agent now too, and that I remember you." Um, but if you didn't, I don't even know why I called. Like, I don't know what train my mind was on to get there to decide, let me call Doug. Let me see what you got to say. Anyway, I called, left a message. If he didn't call me back, I was okay. If he did, great. But I decided that's what I was going to do. Anywho, several weeks later, Doug calls me back and is like, "Oh, I remember your parents, blah, blah, blah." Now, it's clear to me that he didn't remember me, but he remembered especially my dad for whatever reason. My dad made an impression on him. And so he was giving me his background, how he started at 19 doing real estate, and which meant by the time he sold our house and helped us buy one in Anaheim, he was only 22 years old. So he was really young. But he got the job done. So he gave me all his little juicy nuggets to kind of help me, and I was really grateful for that. And I guess the moral of the story is you really never know what kind of impression you make on a child, even if you're only like interacting with them on a peripheral level. You just never know. You could be walking down the street, you never know how you what kind of impression you're making on a person. But I did remember Doug, and I remember being, because my parents were so impressed with him, I was kind of impressed with him too. And I got a chance to talk to him as an adult. And I'm kind of grateful for that. Not kind of, I'm grateful for that. That was, you know, he gave me a lot of information and it was very helpful. So I'm very thankful for that. So just be kind to kids, really. That's probably the moral of the story. Because you never know what they take with them. Their little minds. They're so impressionable. They're so precious. Anyway, I guess that's it. So until next time, take care.